Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. This is DC. Great to be with you this week. A little later in the week, but it's on purpose. We wanted to wait to review the Auburn game until we've had a chance to see what was going to be next coming up with the playoff committee last night, and also the signing day that's going on right now. So it's great to be back. We're glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in again this week for another podcast on Alabama football. I want to thank Lance Shores, who's in the studio making this happen each and every week, doing the post-production and producing the studio podcast and putting it all together. So again, thanks to Lance. I want to thank Lance's sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some just a sponsorship of this each and every week. If you want to see some great Alabama content, you go to those two websites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Lance has some great pictures already up and ready for your viewing of the Alabama-Auburn game, so go check those sites out. And as always, I want to thank Karen Cottingham Realtor, right here with the Williams Group at Keller Williams. For all your real estate needs, you can reach out to Karen at 205-887-4008. Or if you want to check her out on the website, you can go to our website at dccapstonereport.com, and Lance has a button on there you can push to get to Karen's inventory. You can see all the inventory she can help you with if you'd like to sell or buy. She's the one to talk to here in Tuscaloosa, really all over the state of Alabama if you need her. Again, that's Karen Cottingham Realtor with the Williams Group at Keller Williams, 205-887-4008. Well, today on the podcast, we're going to break it up into two segments. In our first segment, we're going to review the game against the Auburn Tigers, the victory that Alabama had over Auburn this past Saturday. And then in our second segment, we're going to talk about what's next for this Alabama football team.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report. This is DC again. Glad you're tuning in. Glad to be back for another podcast on Alabama football. Well, let's go in this first segment. We're going to talk about and review the game against the Auburn Tigers. As we talked about last week, it was a game set up for Auburn to get a victory if they could become bowl eligible. Alabama was coming off of a big loss on the road at Oklahoma, a disappointing loss. Which Alabama team was going to show up? And I predicted that the one would show up that we wanted that was going to win this ball game. That's exactly what happened. Alabama came out of this with a 28-14 victory, and folks, it really wasn't that close. I think Alabama could have won by many more points had we not turned the ball over so much. So one of the key things I think was a negative in this game was the turnovers that we had, the 3 fumbles and the 1 interception. But leaving that aside, I thought Alabama played a really good game, and the reason the way they did it was just what we predicted last week: start fast. They deferred to the second half. Auburn got the ball, and the defense stood up and stopped them on the first 3 in plays. It was 3 and out, and then the Alabama offense comes on the field and makes some big plays and ends up converting some big third downs and ends up with a touchdown and puts us up 7-0. So it was a really big swing to get started fast, and that's exactly what Alabama did. They took the momentum, they made the big plays, and they really did a great job in this. Overall, they had over 457 total yards. They ran the ball well, over 201 rushing yards, passed the ball well, 256 passing yards. And that's factored in that there was 2 big explosive plays that were dropped in this game. 2 big drops. We had 1 touchdown dropped by, I think C.J. Dupree had a touchdown that was dropped, and Ryan Williams had a touchdown that was dropped. They both could have been caught, probably should have been caught. And then Alabama would have extended the lead to a much greater lead, but still would come out with a victory, 28-14. Jalen Milroe had a great game, except for the 1 interception and a couple of the fumbles. One of the fumbles wasn't his fault; he was blindsided because of a tackle didn't block. But he had 17 carries for 104 yards for 3 touchdowns, and Auburn was trying to stop him. They had a spy on him. They had everybody running toward him. They were keying on him, and yet he still was able to get the bulk of the carries at 17 carries for 104 yards. Another player that did so got good in the running game was Jam Miller. Jam Miller ran the ball 28 times, his biggest, heaviest load of the year, for 84 yards. And the reason being was I think Justice Haynes has been a little banged up. We saw Richard Young early in the game. I believe Justice Haynes has been a little banged up. He only carried the ball 7 times for 20 yards, but he did score a touchdown. But that rushing attack was really good in this game. Jalen Milroe also was 18 of 24, and I told you about those 2 drops and 1 interception that he had. We had 256 yards passing. Well, no passing TDs in this game for the first time in a while, but just overall, I think the offense did a good job enough to win this game and can build on this performance. Defensively, I thought we did a fantastic job of how we played Auburn, especially in the first half. Auburn is a running team with Jarquez Hunter. He is a great running the ball, and we know that Peyton Thorne was going to try to run the ball because of the other success that the other teams have had throwing the ball. But we held them to 98 yards rushing. 98 yards rushing. So, in all candor, we had to stop the run in order to win this game, and we did just that. Now, they had some passing yards. They threw for 301 passing yards in the game, but a lot of those passing yards came when Alabama was already in a prevent defense and was ahead and was giving up the short passes and the intermediate passes. So, I really believe Alabama did a really good job. They had 2 takeaways on interceptions. We had 2 interceptions that were really good, one by Bray Hubbard and one by Xavier Brown. I just thought that we played the ball well. Seemed like we were good in phase and coverage and had opportunities in this game to really show what this defense was all about. Rushing the quarterback, had opportunities to get some sacks. We had opportunities to put pressure on the quarterback, and our defensive team just really ran to the ball, some really heavy hits. Damani Jackson led all of our tacklers, our cornerback, with 8 tackles, 6 total tackles, and 8 assists. 2 assists. He had Justin Jefferson right behind him with 4 tackles and 2 assists, and Xavier Brown with 4 tackles, 1 assist, and an interception. Bray Hubbard also had 4 tackles. So all of those players were extremely active in the game. I think Justin Jefferson stepped up and played really well in the absence of Deontay Lawson. It was clear that we did miss him in the game, but really thought that the middle of the line with Damon Payne, Jamarian Latham, they all kind of stepped up and kind of Tim Keenan plugged the middle of that line and kind of stopped this rushing game from getting any traction. So really pleased with the way our defense played. We had some moments where we were not disciplined. We allowed Auburn to goad us, to push our buttons, and we got in some trouble with some penalties. The penalties in the game, when you're looking at that can come back to haunt you at a different time. We've had some trouble with penalties over this year. We had 6 penalties for 66 yards, and was really a lot of times I felt like Auburn should have been flagged first, but they weren't. The referees were actually flagging Alabama for retaliation, so that was something that was kind of made the game a little slower and maybe held us down from what we could have done. We extended their plays with penalties sometimes. Our third down efficiency was really good. We were 12 of 18 on third downs, and our defensive efficiency was really good. We held Auburn 4 out of 12 on third down. So those are 2 impressive numbers that you look at. In our time of possession, we held the ball with that running game for 36 minutes and 35 seconds. So overall, I think we played a really good game against our heated rival in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Anytime you can beat your rival after a big loss like that, not give them opportunities to seize momentum and try to stay in the game, I think you played a good game. So overall, the Alabama victory 28-14 over Auburn was good. It was impressive. And it puts us to a 9-3 record on the year. And I guess what comes next, we'll talk about in our next segment. What will that 9-3 record get us for the rest of the year? Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report. This is DC tuning in again. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Listen to me talk about Alabama football each and every week. I want to thank my sponsors, RollTideBama.com, FreelancePictures.com, and Karen Cottingham Realtor right here in Tuscaloosa with the Williams Group at Keller Williams. For all your real estate needs, contact Karen at 205-887-4008. Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report. Here on the second segment, we're going to talk about what happens next. What happens next? Well, I waited for this podcast so that we could have a little better understanding of where things were. I thought that we needed to see how the college football playoff committee was going to rank Alabama. And I believe it was important for us to see what they were going to do and how they would see Alabama's 9-3 record. And quite frankly, I believe it turns out that it is similar to what the other polls did. They put Alabama at number 11, and you got 12 spots into this 12-team playoff. And so that gives Alabama just a little bit of cushion, because we know that either Arizona State or Iowa State are going to jump, because they'll win their championship in the Big 12, and they'll get to go into the playoffs as a conference champion. So Alabama can be no lower than 12 at the end of the day in order to get a spot in the playoffs. So I think it came down to Alabama, Miami, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. And I believe that the committee was they explained that they were very, very impressed with the way Alabama had handled their schedule, as far as the strength of schedule, the number of opponents that they played that were in the top 25, the number of opponents their record against top 25 teams, and it kind of stacked up better than the others. Alabama came in 11th. Miami was right behind them. They're 10-2. So actually, the strength of schedule of the ones that they lost to and the strength of schedule of the ones that they played was a little more than the wins and losses that they showed. Everybody in the ACC is upset by that, but in my opinion, I think Alabama should be ahead of Miami. South Carolina, everybody's upset about they didn't get picked. They're 9-3 as well, but Alabama beat them head to head. So I don't see the argument there. If Alabama beat them head to head, I think Alabama should be ahead of them. The only team that I really believe that has a argument would be Ole Miss. Ole Miss has 2 big wins, like Alabama has 2 big wins. They have some bad losses, like Alabama, and they didn't play head to head, so it's hard to see who's the better team. So I think the committee did not get it right with Ole Miss. I think it should have been Alabama and Ole Miss as the team players. They were 2 teams they were trying to decide between. But what does that mean? Well, it all comes down to this. You got SMU that's ranked ahead of Alabama at this point, and you got Clemson, who's ranked below Alabama, playing each other for the ACC championship. And here's the question: if SMU beats Alabama, then in my opinion, Alabama is in the college football playoff. And if they're ranked 11th, they play Notre Dame, based on the seeding that we saw last night at Notre Dame, which would be a marquee matchup. Who wouldn't want to see Alabama versus Notre Dame at South Bend in the college football playoff? That would be a great sale. It would be great TV ratings. It would be a great ticket to get. So I think that is a bracket that Alabama would like to be in as well. If SMU wins, I think Alabama's in. That might be your at number 11, and that might be your bracket there, Alabama versus Notre Dame, which would be a great thing to do. If SMU doesn't win and Clemson wins, then there has a chance that Alabama get knocked out, and they'll take 2 ACC teams, SMU and Clemson. Or there is a chance if Clemson beats them bad enough, they'll drop SMU below Alabama at maybe number 13 and keep Alabama at number 11 or 12. So they said last night they don't see Alabama changing the ranking between Alabama, Miami, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. They don't think that changes. None of them are going to jump each other. And they said there was a chance that SMU could lose and drop below Alabama, but there's still a chance they play well enough in the game, and they both make it, and Alabama is on the outs looking in. So I think that to put it this way, as far as the playoffs, Alabama's chances have increased since the game against Auburn, simply because of the way the committee ranked them last night. So I like our chances of getting in. I like SMU's chances of beating Clemson. The only blemish on their record was a loss to Clemson. I think it's hard to beat a team twice in the same season. And I think SMU will be wanting to win that game in the ACC championship to solidify that they get in to the playoff. Clemson, of course, is going to want to try to win it and do everything they can to get into the playoff. That's the only chance they've got is winning that game. So how that game comes out will tell us a little more on Sunday, as the playoff committee is making their decisions on where Alabama is going to be. But chances are Alabama makes the playoff. I would love to see us be playing Notre Dame in South Bend. What a great matchup that would be, and maybe we get the SMU matchup after that if SMU beats Clemson. So that would be a great draw for Alabama in this playoff. But what happens next is either Alabama's in the playoff or they'll be in one of the big bowl games. And I guess we'll know this coming Sunday. The other thing is about what is next is what's next for this Alabama team. And the next step is today is signing day. And it looks like that Alabama and Kalen DeBoer in the early signing period are going to sign a great class that's going to put them number 2 or number 1 in the nation. So there's been no drop-off in recruiting post-Coach Saban, and that is a big thing for Coach DeBoer. I know this is not the end of it. They'll still recruit on to the final signing day, and there may be a couple of people that sign that even makes the class even greater. But right now, projections are on 3 Sports that Alabama's going to have the number 1 class. On 24/7, they got the number 2 class, and on another recruiting, number 2 class. So they're either going to be number 1 or 2 in the nation, which is fantastic in recruiting. The Southeastern Conference is great at recruiting. They got Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, all are in the top 5. So Texas, all in the top five. So we got a really good recruiting. But to have the number 1 or the number 2 recruiting class in his first year, I think is a big step for Kalen DeBoer. So I think that what's next for Alabama is we've got a lot to look forward to down the road, whether we make the playoff or not. Make the playoff, I think we got a chance to make a deep run, depending on the draw that we get. And if we don't, we play a bowl game and we look forward to next year with a great recruiting class, which probably has one of the best quarterbacks come out in a long time, a 5-star plus in Keelan Russell out of Texas, who could really be a person that takes over this Kalen DeBoer offense in a couple of years to come and have us back on top for another national championship. Well, until next time, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report. We'll come back next week. We'll know Alabama's fate on where they get to the playoff or where they're going to a bowl game. We'll be back with a podcast next week talking about that scenario and what Alabama will do. Until then, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report signing off with a big Roll Tide.